All right. Welcome, everybody, to another Maker Monday on Go Imagine. I want to thank you all for joining us again on this Monday night. As you know, Go Imagine is the world's first marketplace that's donating 100% of our profits to charity. We are a handmade marketplace that only features handmade products in the United States. And what that means is we can only survive, we can only thrive, and we can only donate to children's charities if we have makers helping support us and makers helping us get the word out. That's why every Monday we want to bring to you another maker that we can introduce not only them, but also their products and then what they can provide to you through our Maker Monday. So tonight we have a very special guest. She actually lives only a few hours from me in New York. I think you're all going to enjoy her story. I just enjoyed talking to her as well. So let's bring in everybody, Susan Meeker-Lowry from Gaia's Herbal. Hello, Susan.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thanks for doing this, John.
Yeah, no, I want to thank you for being here. I know you've been involved in our group and involved in Go Imagine pretty much from the start. I've been seeing your name ever since we started just kind of tinkering with the idea of doing this marketplace.
Oh, yeah. Once I saw that, I just wanted to be a part of it.
Oh, I appreciate that. And yeah,
so much better than the alternative.
That you said that, I didn't. What I will tell you is that you've been a great supporter so far of Go Imagine, but let's talk more about you. I want to learn more about what you're doing because I am intrigued by a lot of what you do because I have no idea how you do it. You do creams, you do salves, you do perfumes. Tell me, what started you selling online in the first place? Well, first off, how long have you been selling online? And let's talk about what led you up to actually doing it.
I've been selling online since about 2011 when I opened my Etsy shop. But that was basically I wanted to try to expand my outreach. Before I had making herbal products pretty much for 25 years, starting with salves and tinctures and oils and eventually working up to making the skin creams. And my daughter-in-law suggested, because I had been making this one particular cream for a long time, and she said, why don't you sell this? And she sent me an email with a label in it. She said, this could be a label for your creams. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. I could do that. And so
she started doing the work for you. She's like, listen, if you're not going to sell it, I am.
I will. Yeah, kind of. And at the time, too, I was also working at a health food store. The owner there, once I started making things, she really liked what I was doing and she started selling them in the store. And eventually I had a whole line of products that were sold at Morning Dew. And so I got to have a lot of feedback on the different things that I was creating and selling.
Which is wonderful. And this was in Vermont where you started, is that correct?
In Maine. When I was an activist, I was in Vermont, but this was in Maine. When I lived in Freiburg, I was right on the Maine-New Hampshire border. It's like they're next towns, but they just happen to be across state line.
I was just in Bridgewater, Vermont last week, which I don't think is too far away. So you actually mentioned something that I wanted to get into a little bit because we go further back in time, right? So you obviously at one point got to the point where you were making these herbal items, cosmetics. I say cosmetics, but I know that's not exactly correct. But go further back. You said you were an activist, right? And now an activist can be in a lot of different areas doing a lot of activisting. Is that a word? I don't know what
that. After my third son was born, my father-in-law, my ex-father-in-law, actually everybody's dead now except me, my ex-husband and my ex-father-in-law. But anyway, they started a business called Good Money, which was looking at investing our money in things that we believe in and basically applying a screen. Well, it's kind of evolved and come a long way since then, but this was like the early 1980s. And so I basically wanted to take that a lot of steps further and started working in something that I was calling creating a Gaian economy, which is basically an economy for the living earth. With things like what Go Imagine is actually, businesses that are started for a purpose other than making themselves rich. And so that was and I also was working on things like trying to stop clear cutting in the old growth forests and looking at genetically engineered ingredients and all of that stuff. So that's what I was doing when I lived in Vermont.
Which is fantastic. I find one of the things I think we're attracting with Go Imagine is people that have passion for a cause, and people that have done things philanthropically, people that care about the world, people that care about people, people caring about people. And so it's not surprising to me when you told me that you were an activist, specifically to help the earth, that you're now part of Go Imagine.
It's always about the earth, always about the earth. Even growing up, I was always out in the woods. My father raised me that way in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. It's like, it's always about the earth. And that's what's great about making my products is it's all about the earth. I can grow the herb, I can infuse it and make something out of it, and then it can go on your body, and that energy can become a part of you.
Right. And so that led you up. So you were an activist for the earth, and that led you into your further adulthood and the fact that you were just going to start making things with the earth.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I couldn't do that activism anymore. I had to move. My life changed, as it often does. And so it's like, okay, how can I be who I am? How can I do what I'm supposed to do here now? Right. So you just kind of have to, okay, I can do this. Or it's like sometimes it's a dream and you just wake up in the morning and it just, you just have to.
Yeah, which is, you know what, and you're preaching to the choir here, with Go Imagine. For me, it was you just know. It's like, at a certain point you go, screw it, I'm going to do it. Right? You're just going to do it.
Yeah. And people look at you like you're nuts. And I don't know how many times, especially when I was the activist, that I would be like, what am I doing? What am I doing? You're insane. You're losing your mind. And I would be driving along, and I've got 3 kids, and I would look up at the sky, and there would be like a cloud that was just like this. And I was like, okay.
It's like looking in a mirror right now, because it's the same situation. Like sometimes I'll tell people the idea for our marketplace, Go Imagine, and some people go, oh my God, that's incredible. Others are like, wait, what? You're going to give the money away? I don't understand. Like, it's just like
perspective and way of being in the world.
Right. So you're talking about making things with the earth now. Are you going to like the grocery store to buy these herbs? How are you making these? Like, if it was me, I would just go to the produce section and pick thyme and basil and start to. I assume how do you get your herbs?
Well, I grow a lot of them.
Okay.
I grew more when I was in Freiburg because I had a big garden, but I am fortunate to have some garden space here and also at my son's. And also I'm just kind of, what can I harvest around here, to add to what I can actually grow. But I grow most of the herbs that I use, especially in my salves. And I will wild harvest them. Sometimes, like one time, this friend of mine, a white pine tree in spring had to be cut down by the power company on her land. And apparently when you cut white pines down in the spring, like the time the sap is flowing in maples, the sap is flowing in the white pines as well. And so she brought me
buckets,
huge coffee cans full of white pine sap. That was just like such a gift. I'm still using it. It was just, was just amazing. So, I really love working with herbs that grow where I am or that I can grow. And if I can't, then I buy them from reputable sources. And also, I've been fortunate to find some really wonderful artisanal and fair trade people who source resins and that kind of thing directly from the people who harvest them according to traditional ways in the countries where they are harvested. So all of it, trying to get things from, as close to the source as possible.
Which is incredible. I always assumed you given what you're selling, you're going to, what you're saying are reputable sources. But when I also learned that you're growing a lot of these yourself.
Right.
There's times when I hear that. I hear that not just from you, but other handmade sellers on Go Imagine, where they're actually making or growing or whatever to what they then put into what they're making. And that takes handmade even to another level for me to think about.
I don't have a lot. If I all of a sudden started selling a zillion jars of calendula salve, I don't know what I would do.
I'm sure you'd find a really good reputable
to grow calendula for me.
You'd find a reputable supplier. You get some really good stuff to keep it going. So I do find the name of your shop interesting, Gaia's. So could you tell me, I don't know what that meant. What is Gaia? Why did you
choose the Greek name for the earth? Gaia was a Greek goddess. Originally, she gave birth to some of the whole pantheon in Greece. And my grandfather on my mother's side came over from Greece to this country in the early 1900s. And so, he died when I was 6, but I have very clear memories of him, and he would talk about Greece. So I've always felt a connection to Greece. I've been fortunate enough to go there, which inspired the perfume that I have called Delphi. So it's always felt like a part of me being Greek ever since I was a kid. And so it just made sense for me to use Gaia.
So I've got some close Greek friends as well, or family friends. And I also tell you, Greek people know how to party.
Yes,
also,
and cook and eat.
They know how to eat and party.
Yeah.
You mentioned eat. Oh my gosh, we'll go to the parties and there is just meat and food and just, it's I enjoy that. They know how to eat. They know how to party. Many of them know how to drink, at least the ones I know. But it's always fun when I'm with my Greek friends. So let's go back to what you're making here. So did you have any influence? Was there an inspiration? Because I know you wanted to make things with the earth, right? Now
right.
You could make a lot of things with the earth. You could have gotten into furniture, right? What was the influence for you to want to get into things you put on your body? Was there a certain person or a thing that got you into that specifically?
It was all about the earth, really. It was my love of herbs. And it was, I've always been using herbs, even when the kids were little. I mean, I started using natural remedies and teas and that kind of thing. It was part of who I was growing up in the 60s. And so it was just, I was, like a hippie. And so that's when I started using herbs. So it kind of felt natural, but it was also a way for me to essentially fulfill my purpose for the earth in a way that makes sense for me as my life changed. And communicating with the plants, the bees, all the pollinators, just getting to know the individual plants in the garden. And even in the winter, I could close my eyes and go around and visit with all the perennials and see their roots growing in the soil. So for me, it's always been that. And so that was a way to utilize that and to share that and do something that I really love doing. And I also like playing in the kitchen. And if I play in the kitchen with food and I eat too much, I get really big. So this way I get to play in the kitchen and make things and I don't eat them.
You can't eat them. You can just make yourself, smoother.
Right.
I have to admit, talking with you and knowing you, that I imagine in the 60s you were a flower child. There's no doubt in my mind that there were flowers in your hair, 100%, right?
Yeah, I used to sell Indian print dresses.
Okay, good. That's funny. Did you ever get hentai and all that, that sort of stuff?
I didn't actually.
No, interesting. So all the stuff you're making, any formal training, or was it a lot of just experimental, trial and error until you kind of figure out what works for you and bring it to other people?
Well, with making things with herbs, of course, obviously I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of experimenting. I, took some courses and that kind of thing, but pretty much it was my own choice what I did. I was basically self-taught. And with perfume, the same thing, although I did take what I feel was a really wonderful online course with somebody who I still get ingredients and stuff from. And he's an award-winning artisanal perfumer. And so I got some really good, a foundation. And also he approached it like a cook and an herbalist. And so when I heard those two words, I knew that was the course for me.
Right. Right.
But it's a lot. I mean, yeah, maybe I could save myself a lot of trouble or get farther faster by spending a lot of money taking courses, but can't really afford that. So I really am kind of teaching myself and experimenting and kind of doing it as I go along.
Well, no, I mean, that's wonderful. And I think oftentimes that's not only where you get people with the most heart putting it into the product that they're making, but that's how you come up with things that don't exist, right? You're not copying someone else's recipe. You
don't have all the preconceived notions.
Right.
Right. As an activist, I was working in the area of economics. I had no degree in economics. And some people would say, well, that's really an advantage because you have like a fresh look at things. It was a disadvantage because I didn't have the credibility that I wish I had, but it's a
no, there's 100% pros and cons.
Some are negative. But with perfume, it's like there are certain things that you should do or shouldn't do, but you basically just have to, like my perfume teacher said, he's like, you just have to maintain a sense of curiosity.
Right.
Even smells that you smell that you like, oh, that's horrible. You know, one drop of that in something could like totally change it and make it perfect. And the only way you're ever going to know that is if you take that chance and risk it.
That's a good way. That's a good way, because you're like an entire, you know, like nobody wants to drink hot sauce from the jug, but a little drop on your food, and all of a sudden, so it's kind of like a perfume. It's like, yeah, you don't want all of it, but a little bit can change the entire recipe.
Right.
So all right, we're talking about the products. Let's actually look at some of your products. So I want to bring up your store here, your shop that is on Go Imagine. First thing I'll tell you is I love the banner.
I do too. I was so happy with that when I created it.
Yeah, no, I think it looks great. And I'll tell you, the one thing I like most about it is that it's highlighting a little more about the handmade items along with the flowers. Now, are those actual pictures of
yes, those are all pictures I took. And the apple blossoms are from the ancient crabapple tree in Freiburg. That was just the most amazing tree in the world. And I used to stand under that tree when it was buzzing with bees and just like let the buzzing. But and then the other one is my perfumes, and that's some calendula that I've grown. So yeah.
All right. Wonderful. Yeah. So I love the fact that really what you're highlighting here is the natural ingredients that you're using to actually make all the items that are inside your store. And as we go through here, you're seeing the salves, you're seeing the blends of oil, the aromatherapy, the perfumes, the sprays, all these different items that you have for sale. You said there was one of them here we were talking earlier was was really, I would call it Gaia's first, the original.
The moisturizing skin cream.
This one right here,
That's
right?
really the first cream that I ever made. And the formula is pretty much the same. It's changed a little bit because I've learned more about the qualities of different oils.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, it's the same. It has the same essential oils, the same. It's just basically what I've been making for probably 25 years now.
Okay, and this is actually one of the ingredients, one of the flowers you put.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And so now, how do you prepare? Do you crush the flour? Do you cook the flour? I don't even know. Like you use
what I do is when they look like that, I pick them, just the flower part, not the stem. And well, I pick the stem too, but I cut that off, and then I wilt them. I have a dryer, a dehydrator. I don't turn it on necessarily unless I have layers of it, but I just lay them in there and wilt them so that a lot of the heavy moisture, the original moisture, can evaporate. Because you don't want too much in the oil. It's not a great mix. So when they've wilted enough, I tear them apart and put them in a mason jar and pour organic olive oil or jojoba or whatever it is I'm using over them. And this time of year, they go in the sun, you know, and they infuse in the sun for 2 to 4 weeks. And I kind of tell by how they look.
2 to 4 weeks?
Mm-hmm. I bring them in at night. Obviously, they don't go out if it's raining, but yeah.
This sounds like the time I made beer and I had to wait a month for it to, brew in the basement. Like I didn't realize you have to actually let it sit for it to do that.
Right. Well, I could, if I needed something and I didn't have it, I could like put it in a crock pot on low or, and turn it off and on and off and on and off and on. Basically, the point is the heat. But I personally feel there's some magic that happens when it's in the sun.
Well, it seems like it's a little more natural, right?
And there's just something about it. It's like I've never had it go bad. There's just something about the sun.
Well, you've got to figure.
That's just me. I can't prove it.
Well, I mean, whether you can prove it or not, I believe it because when you're in the sun, you're usually getting vitamin D. You're getting a sense of goodness that you wouldn't get out of a crock pot with electricity.
Right. Right.
All right. So obviously this here is. I would call it I would say your bestseller only because you've been selling it for a very long time.
It's kind of a signature product.
Yeah, the signature.
I just came up with that word a couple of days ago, and I kind of like it.
Well, yeah, you've got to change moisturizing skin cream now to say Gaia's Garden Herbals signature moisturizing skin cream. You have to add the same. In fact, what you really should do, not that I have to tell you what to do, you're doing fantastic, is put signature moisturizing skin cream, and then put your signature on it. On the label. Right?
Yeah, I could sell a special batch and charge extra.
And then or how about you charge $1
donate
extra?
It all.
You got $1 extra, and you'll actually do a signature. It'll be an autograph. That's what you should do.
Right.
Autograph. All All right. So obviously the creams and the salves is what you were really getting into at first. But then that led you eventually to perfume, right? And perfume to me, and you've got a bunch that are on here, whether it's the nostalgia perfume, the dreamscape, all these. Well, I think it was the dreamscape we were talking about earlier, correct?
Yeah, that was my first real perfume that I made.
Okay.
I was taking the perfumery course, and so I'd already decided I was going to make perfumes, and I had purchased some ingredients based on what I had read. And so I had a dream, and the dream was just, it was sultry, and it was like opium den-ish, and it was really, for some reason, it really intrigued me. And I woke up and I remembered it, and it just felt like I needed to try to express that in a perfume.
Right. Well, some of the best ideas come in dreams, right? That's when people.
And that's why I called it Dreamscape. But yeah, I mean, pretty much every perfume I have was inspired by something.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like a true maker, that's what you're inventing. What you're creating as well.
Right. It's like if you're an artist and you're going to paint a picture, or if you're going to write a novel or whatever, you have an idea, obviously, of what you want to do.
Right.
You don't just sit there and say, okay, well, maybe you do. I don't know.
Or you don't take a class. You go to class with a professor, and the professor tells you what to write for the book, and you just write the book that you
right.
create,
No, it's like, you think, and then like, so creating Dreamscape, it was like, well, I would go into the dream and like I knew it needed to be heavier and a little bit narcotic and addictive, because you want, because that was what the dream was all about. So, so you try to find the ingredients that help express that.
And let's talk about the ingredients for a moment, because one of the things I find is, and one of the luxuries I have is I get to see all these sellers and all these makers coming up on Go Imagine that I never knew would even be here, right? Because when we opened the handmade marketplace, it was more of the hope was kind of the what was the field of dreams? If they build it, they will. If you build it, they will come. Like we're opening up this marketplace for handmade, but we don't dictate who's coming. And then one day I see you come, and there's perfume on the website.
I know, what is this?
For me, who knows nothing about perfume, I'm like, clearly, my first thought was this probably isn't handmade. Because I'm like, in my mind, it's chemicals. It's all chemicals. It's all dyed number 5 yellow with scent number 6 from some lab in New Jersey off the highway, mixing up chemicals until it smells nice. And then they put it in Lysol cans or Febreze.
Well, even a lot of the name brands and the expensive perfumes are still made out of chemicals, aroma chemicals.
And that's so not natural, especially when you consider all the things that you're putting on your body.
Right.
That is so unnatural. And I want to hear from you more about how you make these. But, when I think about like putting things on your skin that help the skin, the first thing you don't think is chemicals, right?
Right. Well, everything is chemicals, really. And so you have like rose, which is a fragrance. And I have the essential oil and the absolute, which is derived from the actual roses. But those ingredients are basically made up of aroma chemicals, and rose has a chemical profile. And so if somebody's going to create that in a lab using chemicals, then they basically have the chemicals to put together to create that profile. So but a lot of what I find, the aroma chemicals that I've smelled, is they're just isolated. There's just one note to the rose in the chemical, and it doesn't go anywhere. It's kind of the same all the time. And so it doesn't change with time. It doesn't age unless it goes bad. It doesn't, your skin doesn't really become an ingredient with a perfume like it does with a natural perfume. So because it will, shift a little bit with the chemistry of your skin. And plus a lot of people have problems with the chemicals.
Right. And I guess it's better to say artificial chemicals, because you're right. Even natural chemicals are ones that are still chemicals.
And there are natural isolates too, but they're natural, but they're isolated. They're still that isolated. And I don't use those. I have a couple of them. I've smelled them, but they're just so linear.
Gotcha. Right. So do you feel you really have a good sense of smell? I assume that you really.
I do now. I did lose my sense of smell for about a year, which is why I'm terrified of coronavirus because it's one of the main symptoms, and a lot of people don't recover it after. It's a whole thing I've been following. But
it's funny. I've got a friend of mine who lost his sense of smell years ago and just doesn't have a sense of smell now. It's very interesting.
I ended up, it's okay. I had polyps. I didn't know that. And after I moved to New York, I had to wait to see an ENT as a new patient. You never get an appointment right away. So that's what it was. But when I couldn't smell or taste, and I really wanted to focus on my perfumes after we moved here. But I couldn't do that because I couldn't smell. I mean, it was devastating to me.
It's like a painter losing their fingers, right?
Yeah.
No, okay.
Yeah.
No, and I imagine that was devastating. But I'm glad you have it back because now it seems like the perfumes are doing very well. And I just noticed this one.
The memory of
I'm
bees.
just browsing
That's kind of one of my newest ones.
Yeah. So are there bees? I mean, you're showing pictures of bees.
Basically, the inspiration for that perfume, it actually started before I lost my sense of smell when I was still in Freiburg. But then, and I made parts of it, and then it kind of had to sit there until I was able to smell again, which was earlier, which was like a few months ago. Well, I started smelling more than a year ago, but that's when I picked that perfume up again. But in any case, it's just like an ode to summer and to my garden. It's the herbs that you're seeing pictures of. Essential oils for those herbs are in that perfume. Those are all pictures from my garden in Freiburg.
So this is your garden?
Yeah, not now, but the one that I did have, yes. And so I grew all these different herbs. So I thought, okay, I want to put these herbs in the perfume. And then there's honey because of the bees that are in the garden. And then there's the dirt, the smell of the musty smell of the dirt and the moss on the bricks. And then, the smell of pine, from their white pines that were around. And so it's all part of what you would smell when you went into the garden on a hot summer day.
Right. Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, this whole store, I mean, you've got a lot of different items here that are available on Go Imagine. So yeah, no, I want to thank you for joining me today. Let me ask you this: where do things go from here for Gaia's Garden Herbals? Where are you? Are you at a good spot in your shop's life where you're just enjoying selling and seeing where it goes, or are you trying to do something next? Are there new products you're thinking you might want to do in the future?
Oh, I'm always creating new products.
I
have new products that I'm going to be listing at some point soon. I just love making new things.
So give me an example of something that you're thinking about making you haven't made yet.
Well, there's always another perfume to make.
Yeah, another scent.
There's always another scent. I'm also starting to work more now, and I'm going to be putting one up on Go Imagine with what I call perfume balms. They're like not really a solid perfume, but kind of like a solid perfume.
Okay.
Made with floral waxes and essential oils, and I'm liking those.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. No, that's great. So being someone who's been doing this for, almost a decade online and even further, if you go physically, if you had to start all over again and you had to give advice to someone just starting out, what do you think you would tell someone who wanted to get into what you're doing?
Well, I think you really should know what you're doing. You need to do a lot of research. You need to know about, like for me, I'm never going to, especially with the herbs, I'm not going to tell anybody anything if I don't know. If I don't know, I'm going to tell them I don't know.
Right.
So don't try to make yourself more than you are. Be willing to say I don't know and be willing to learn. Also, it's not easy, and don't cut corners. There are certain corners you really can't cut. You need to use good ingredients. You need to walk the talk in the sense that that you really need to be careful with what you put together and that you're selling to people, especially if they're putting it on their bodies or even eating it, or in any way. Just want to do that, but also. Put in some effort to think about marketing, which I didn't really do. It's like, it's not cheap you can start something and do well and have a small group of customers and put something online and have a slightly larger group of customers, which is kind of where I'm at. If you want to take it to a step further than that, you're going to have to be willing to put in some hard work, to do some things you don't necessarily want to do because you want to be creative. You don't want to deal with the business end of it. You don't want to deal with that crap. You don't have time for it. But unless you have enough money to pay somebody, you're going to have to do it yourself. That kind of thing. It's not easy. So you really have to have your passion to carry you through.
Which it seems like you have the passion. It seems like you're doing this if I'm reading the room right, you're not doing this for the money. You're doing this because you really enjoy what you're doing and you can make some money. Is that
I'm doing it so that I can keep on doing it, basically. Because I love doing it. And if I couldn't sell something, I wouldn't be able to make something to sell again. You know what I'm saying? So
I need to figure out a way that people will pay me to watch football.
Yeah.
And then I would be in a good situation, right? Because that's what I'm hearing from a lot of makers. It feeds the addiction. And if I can just let my wife know, don't worry, other people will pay me to go to the football game, I'll be in good shape.
Yeah. So when all these little boxes arrive in the house with all these expensive ingredients, I need to be able to know that I can keep those.
You can sell them, right? Which is great. Susan,
the better I get, the more practice I have, the better everything will smell.
Yeah, everything will smell. You'll enjoy it more.
And also people's input. If somebody buys something and they say, I really like this about it, but not that, or I was kind of hoping it would smell more like, you know what I mean? Because the way I love sharing, like when people visit, oh, you want to come smell some stuff? I just got this in. And so they'll go, yeah. So I'll go, I open this and I stick it under their nose and they go, and then I stick this under their nose. And it's so much fun.
I have to admit, for a moment there, you sounded like a drug dealer. Hey, listen. You want to go smell some stuff? Yeah, let's go. Come on. Hey, smell this, huh?
I've done that. I've stuck my arm in people's noses.
What's it smell like?
They know me well, though. I don't just go up to strangers.
Smell it. What does it smell like?
I just did that a couple of days ago. In fact, smell this. Do you like it?
I'll tell you this. Normally when I go to my kids or my wife and I say, smell this, it's not for a good reason. But Susan, honestly, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I've really enjoyed this interview. And I want to thank you for being a part of Go Imagine. As you probably heard, we're going to be launching live in a couple weeks with a lot of plans for our launch around marketing and getting the word out. But a big part about getting the word out is getting makers and sellers to know that there's a new marketplace in town that's doing things differently and doing things philanthropically. And marketplaces, every marketplace, even I won't name them, the biggest marketplaces out there, were able to succeed when makers rallied around them. And I really hope that makers like you who have joined us so early are going to help let the world know there's a way you can help people, specifically help children in need, while also doing what you love and make money along the way. So everybody wins.
It definitely is a win-win.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So Susan, thank you again for being a part of this. I know I'm going to see you on the Facebook group. Plus, I know that you're going to be contributing a blog as well. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep. I actually have it ready to send.
Wonderful. So we'll be posting that at some point in August as well to get the blog up. So everybody, make sure you check out Susan's shop at Gaia's Garden Herbals. You can find her on Go Imagine. And thank you again for being here, Susan. We'll see you on the internet. Thanks.
I was nervous, but I survived.
You did wonderful.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right, hold on.